Hey there, fellow adult collectors. Welcome back. David Eon here with the Mondo exclusive Mer-Man 1/6 scale from their Masters of the Universe collection. And I've been really looking forward to this. A couple of dents in the box, but it really didn't affect anything inside. I've examined the interior box, but I haven't really gotten into this yet. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the unboxing and review of this. I've reviewed every other figure so far except for Scare Glow because I do not have the Scare Glow. And it's not available yet. I have not done the pre-order on it yet, but I would like to. Just that the budget's been kind of tight recently. But I do intend on eventually getting the Scare Glow. And this is the standard Snake Mountain slipcover that's been on all the villains so far. So this is like the same type of slipcover that was on the Faker and the Skeletor. And this is the Mondo exclusive variant. There are two versions, and the Mondo version comes with an extra head, and that is some great artwork on the back of the box here. I really like this. I like what they did here. It's almost like a 70s rendition of Mer-Man, isn't it? It looks like it's from a 70s poster or some other similar artwork, or almost like Mobius, like something that Mobius would have drawn if you're familiar with his work. There's the front of the box. There's your symbol letting you know it's an exclusive version. And a green scale of the other artwork. And I'm up in the video game room here, but we're going to take this down to the museum as soon as we're done with the unboxing and review of the articulation. And there is his basic description, because they do that with these figures. Gives you a basic idea of who he is in the Masters of the universe, if you will. And there's his window box, which you can't see him very well for the moment, but we are about to get him out of there and take a close look at him. So let's go ahead and open him up. And I'm going to open him from the top. No option to open him from the bottom. Watch out with these flaps. So I'm not trying to damage the box at all. I like to keep the boxes as intact as possible. There we go. Turn out this flap. There we are. I'll flip him back and pull him out for the first time. Let him get some air. And so far I've been really liking these from Mondo. Open this up. He was kind of a surprise. Mer-Man, actually. Here we are. And this is the exclusive portrait you get when you buy it directly from Mondo. If you don't buy it directly from Mondo, you do not get that extra head. And I always recommend going ahead and going to Mondo's website and ordering there, because it's only a difference of $5. Back here we have his stand and an assortment of weapons, a spear, a blaster, a sword that looks like it's made out of teeth, and a trident, as well as a change of feet. And that's unique. Usually you get a bunch of extra hands, and he does have several sets of hands. He's got 5 sets of hands here, but you don't see usually replacement feet. That's different. So we're going to go ahead and pull him out and take a look at all of his accessories. Let's go ahead and jump cut to that. And here we go. We're back with our Mer-Man 1/6 scale Mondo exclusive from the Masters of the Universe franchise. And I gotta tell you, I'm actually really liking the sculpt on this one so far. I haven't tested his articulation or anything yet, but we'll be doing that in a minute and changing out the heads and changing out the hands and even the feet now. But there is a lot of sculpt on this one. I mean, I've liked so far. I've got the He-Man, I've got the Faker, I've got the Mondo exclusive Skeletor. There are 4 versions of Skeletor. I think they went a little too far with that, because you had the Mondo exclusive that came with the extra piece. It came with the Cosmic Key as an exclusive item. The regular Skeletor, so okay, no big deal. But then they had a Hot Topic exclusive with a different head sculpt. And then they had a Designer Con exclusive that has metallic paint scheme, and I was like, okay, Mondo, enough. You know, a regular and an exclusive version is more than enough. You don't need to do all that, in my opinion. But so far, I mean, as far as details on sculpt, this has got to be probably the best work that I've seen from Mondo thus far. So I'm really liking the way he's looking. And his articulation, these are solid figures. You know, usually, I mean, I do reviews, I got Hot Toys, I got QMX figures and some other pieces that I've done reviews on. And the Mondos are probably the most solid figures, 1/6 scale, that I've done any reviews on. If you drop it, it doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart. And changing out the hands on these, they've got the thickest wrist joints in the business. You're not going to break wrists changing this out. Look at all the barnacles. You can actually see barnacles on the back of this, on his armor. I like it. I like the coloring too. I think they really knocked it out on this one. And there are a ton of accessories, even if you don't get the exclusive version. There's a lot of accessories with this. A lot of hands, a lot of weapons. Remember, the exclusive only comes with an extra portrait, which I'll show again in detail here. I'm going to show in a moment all of the accessories, and then we're going to test the articulation of the figure, which I expect to be about the same as the other figures, because I do believe, just like the original Mattel, they're using the same basic body mold over and over again and just making modifications. Still wanting that scare glow. I had mentioned that earlier, but you know, it's been a tight budget for the last few months, so I have not been able to pick up scare glow yet. I'd like to pre-order it though before it's gone, before Man-at-Arms comes out, because I believe Man-at-Arms is next. We're going to start looking at the hands first. Man-at-Arms is next, followed by Hordak, actually. So you get a pair of gripping hands for holding the weapons. Lot of sculpting and paint detail on these. You can see the tendons in the back of his hands, the stretching in the knuckles. A pair of what looks like, I guess, pistol grip finger hands for pulling the trigger, because he does come with a gun, and you can see the webbing between his fingers as well. Very nicely done. And as I pointed out again, look at the size of those wrist joints, because that's a big issue I have, especially with like Hot Toys. And just recently 3-0 doing a review of the 3-0 Optimus Prime, changing those hands was a nightmare. That peg is so small and it feels so fragile. I was terrified I was just going to break it up, even just testing that figure. Got a lot of complaints from customers about that. I mean, got a lot of complaints from viewers about that, about my analogy. But I'm going to be honest, you know, if I'm holding these figures and it feels it doesn't feel right to me, I'm going to say so. Because I'm not working for these companies. I don't work for Mondo. I don't work for 3.0. You see the veins in his hand and the detail between the webbings. And a pair of, like, clutching hands. Those, I guess, could be like swimming hands. And these are more like grabbing, clutching hands. Here's your classic portrait, or I should say, sort of like your Filmation head, or Mattel Master's head. He's got hair. Very small peg. And then a head that looks more like the original comics. Watch this. Jaw articulation. I like that. Pair of antennae on the top. A very interesting portrait. The stand, which I'm not a fan of these. I'm not a fan. This one's damaged. It's that can be fixed though. I think it's just the way it was packaged. You see how it's just bent in, but that's not major. That can be fixed. I'm not a fan of this type of stand. I don't like the stands really too much, the ones that go up between the legs of the figure. And the Mondo stands in particular, because these figures are very heavy. These are very heavy in comparison to other 6 scale figures. And when you put the stand together, they'll teeter. Although this one feels tighter than the other ones that I've worked with. Maybe that's an improvement. This one does feel tighter. I'll give them that. In previous stands, when I've done other reviews of the Mondo figures, the stands are so heavy, or rather the figures are so heavy as they're setting on here, and if they drift to one side or another, it pulls the peg out and then the whole thing falls over. So I've not been a fan of those. And you see there's a pair of extra feet. Extra feet. And it's in an arched kind of a position. Maybe these are supposed to be like swimming feet, because it doesn't look very different from the feet that he already has. So that's interesting. On to the weapons. We've got a blaster, some kind of a gun with a big trigger opening, which would make sense. Fair detail on the blaster. It's not too extravagant, but it works. And then the big weapons. A sword that looks like it's made out of teeth and bones. And this is rubber almost. Yeah, it feels like rubber, but it's solid. A trident. You see the shell on the bottom. Following all the way up to the top of a trident, which kind of looks like a claw, really. And then a spear. Same on both sides, pretty much. It's got some notches in it. Makes it look like it's taken some strikes from a sword, perhaps. It's a good detail. Nice little extra detail there. Now let's go ahead and pull him off and take a close look at his articulation. Starting at the top. Actually, that's not bad at all. A lot of fluid motion on the head, and this mouth is also jointed, so you can open this mouth as well. I like that. Let's go ahead and try changing the head out right now, since we're up here. You can see that double neck function there, and that should just Don't give me a hard time now. Let's try the other one. Okay, there's the classic. Oh, it came off. I'm trying to get the classic head on, and it's being stubborn. And I don't want to force it too hard. I mean, these are sturdy, but you don't want to be rough with them. All right, there's the classic Mer-Man head. Okay. And we'll try this one again. You got to kind of twist it in. It's a tight fit. It's kind of surprising because I haven't had that much trouble with these heads before. And it could just be the paint application. I was starting to say earlier, there was a delay with this figure. It was supposed to be out a couple of months ago. There we go. Now with the head on though, his mouth, there we go. You got to lift his head up more to get the mouth open. That doesn't look bad. What do you think? It was supposed to be out a couple of months ago, and we'll leave that one on for now. And there was some kind of a production problem. Now I imagine that the shoulder piece is going to keep him from raising his arms much higher than that. It's going to obstruct it, and it does. Some kind of a production problem, and it was delayed, and they said, oh, we'll let you know when it's available, and they never did. It just showed up. It was supposed to be out 2 months ago, it wasn't. That's about as high as you're going to get his arm because of the shoulder pad is blocking, because this is kind of hard actually, so you can't raise his arms as high as the articulation would normally allow. Single joint at the elbow. Good bicep twist though. Wrist articulation. But they didn't let me know. So it just showed up in the mail yesterday. Wrist articulation is good. We're going to try changing out a hand. Oh, it's in there tight too. Wow. This hand doesn't want to come off. There it goes. Like I said, a thick peg, so not too much risk of breaking it. In case you're wondering, these gauntlets do come off if you were wanting to pose him without the gauntlet. And I can try putting another hand in. I'll put a gripping hand in. Popped in a lot easier than it came out. But there you go, gripping hand. Side to side is kind of obstructed because of the big armor piece that he's wearing on his chest, and it does not look like it comes off at all. It looks like it's firmly attached all the way around. So side to side has obstruction, and crunching has obstruction, because the other figures, and you can see the split under here, the chest is made so that they can tip side to side or forward and back, and he isn't able to because of his baldric. Side to side this way, about right there, waist twist. And you know what's interesting is the front of this right here, just this part feels sticky somehow. Maybe there's some paint or oil residue. Splits to about there. Backward is firmly restricted. It's only going to go about that much. Forward. So his articulation is limited a lot more. Look, it stops about right there. His articulation is limited a lot more than were the other figures. And I'll show you here right now too. This just happened. A paint rub from his shorts onto his skin right there. Double jointed knee. And if it sounds like I'm torturing the figure, it's because it's like I'm right up in the camera, so you can hear all the creaks. It's a double jointed knee, but that's as far as you're going to go because of the sabotons, which I imagine are removable if his feet come off. Let's go ahead and try to take a foot off. There's your ankle rotation, limited by the saboton. Alright, let's get it out of there. And there it goes. Ball joint. Saboton doesn't feel like it wants to come off. No, it's not going to come off because look in there. The saboton is permanently attached. Let's try putting one of these other feet on. It's a tight fit again. Got it. So yeah, it's almost like a swimming kind of a foot. That's interesting. But it gives you some more options. It does give you some more options for posing. Okay, let's take Mer-Man to the museum and put him with the other Mondo figures and see how he looks. And we are back. Here we are down in the museum, and we're going to go over to where the Mondo 6th scale figures are set up. We've got Mer-Man now in his proper place. These are the 4 that have been released so far. Scareglow is pending because he's available for pre-order. And soon should be Duncan, that is Man-at-Arms, and then Hordak, or vice versa, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Duncan coming out first. First one was the He-Man, Skeletor, Faker, and now Mer-Man. And of the 4, honestly, I gotta say, probably the most detail in sculpting, in my opinion. They've done a lot more with the sculpt on this Mer-Man than they have with any of the other Mondo figures thus far from the Masters of the Universe. I like the coloring too. I like the heads. I went ahead and went with this head, which popped right back on, by the way. No problem putting this head on and off. It's changing out the other 2 heads that are a little bit of a struggle, but at least I'm not afraid of breaking it like I often am with either 3-0 or Hot Toys. Things always feel like they're going to break, and that makes me nervous. I mean, you're paying a lot for these high-end collectible figures. They shouldn't feel like they're going to fall apart in your hands. It's one of my biggest arguments sometimes. So I think he looks great. He feels really solid. His stand works a lot better this time than previously. Faker's stand is barely hanging in there, quite frankly. And you noticed that the He-Man and Skeletor are not on Mondo stands. They are on basic doll stands because they kept falling over. The stand kept falling apart, and I'd pick them up off the floor every day, and I got tired of it. So that's my biggest argument with the Mondo stands. But they're thick, heavy, solid figures. I like that. The sculpt is fantastic on this one. I really like that. I like the way he looks. If I'm going to take any points away, I'll take points away for limitations on his articulation. Because as I pointed out, they all have basically the same body, just repainted. And these guys, I mean, they can do... It's not too fluid, but they can do like an ab crunch or a bend or side movements, things like that. And he just cannot because his armor obstructs him. He can't even bend his knees all the way because of the size of his sabotons there. Block him. So he does lose points for limited mobility. Although he has the capacity to move, the armor blocks it all. But overall, I like it. I like this series so far. And some people like it, some people don't. There are a lot of people who are like, oh, it's not the Masters of the Universe that I grew up with. Well, no, obviously. But there's so many different variations on the Masters of the Universe. There's the classic look. There's the Mattel look, the original Mattel look. There's the Filmation look. You get a lot of Filmation versions, or used to anyways, from Super 7. They're not making them anymore so far as I know. They've lost their license for now. We'll see if they get it back or not. And a lot of people have wanted a 6th scale for these, and Mondo's the only one to pull it off. Although they've teased it for a couple of years at conventions before they actually were able to go ahead into production, but they're in production now, and I like them. But what do you think? What do you think of the Mer-Man? Do you think they did a good job on this Mer-Man? Is this something that you would be interested in having? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section down below. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you got something out of it. If you were considering it and I helped you to decide that you wanted or even didn't want this, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. Please give the video a thumbs up, share it if you can, subscribe if you're new. Check out our other videos if you have not. We do a lot more than just 6th scale unboxings in here. We've kind of got a full-on museum going in our home. There's a lot going on. We do tours, we do hunts, we do weekly roundups, we do discussions, showcase vintage commercials, video game walkthroughs. A lot of nostalgia stuff going on here, and we would love for you to be part of it. Join our Patreon family. Find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook. All that information is down below. So once again, just let me know what your thoughts are about the Mer-Man. I'm really liking him. I think he looks good. And I'm looking forward to getting a Scare Glow and then Duncan and moving on. I've got, you see there's a blank spot here I've got reserved on this shelf for the Mondo Masters as I'm able to get them. So, hey folks, thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.